The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Arctic Fantasy. Get up to 1K in a deposit match when you sign up on Arctic Fantasy with promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's currently Saturday morning, July 26th, around 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to switch it up a little bit. We're going to go to the hardcourt slate, looking at the semis in DC. So we finished breaking down the tournaments in Umag and in Kitzbühel, and I'll recap I'd say the limited recap we have for that episode. But it's time to move on into the other matches taking place on Saturday, which of course are the DC semifinal matchups. If you do want my thoughts though on Umag, which has not happened yet, check out the episode before this one. Now, before we get into the actual recap of what happened in the quarters, a reminder that you can support the show by like, subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple. So podcast available, audio format only, or of course with the video included. So check it out either way. But don't forget to help the show grow by like, subscribing, and don't forget to leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis stuff. We have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, high quality, different colors, very affordable. Check that out. Plus, a reminder that the Sports Camp Podcast is back with the 32 NFL team previews. They're also bringing back the phrase that pays. Each episode, they'll give out a word of a 32-word phrase. Submit the phrase for a chance to win a $1,000 circa future. So, starting off with the recap of the lock and dog for the episode for the semis in Umag and in Kitzbühel. We can't recap the dog. That's not happened yet. It was in the Umag match. However, did lose the lock in Kitzbühel as we had Bublik team total over 12.5 at minus 140. What a heartbreaker. It felt pretty similar to how the Bublik team total under ended up working out against Zanschulp the round prior. But Kazo was in such a golden opportunity to get to 5 games either in a set or potentially to steal a set, and he fell apart. So Kaz, as a reminder, was not broken in the final 3 matches of the event. It was 4-4 in the first set. So no breaks. We needed one more hold from Kaza. He couldn't do it. He got broken. Then he went up a break in the second set, and he fell apart as Bublik won 6-4, 6-3. So either way, point is did lose the team total as he finished with 12, even though we were 1 game away in the first set from Kaza, forcing Bublik to get to 7 if he wanted to win the first set, and then he was up a break in the second, and he choked it. So Bublik, once again, was right there, just fell short as he played the pressure points well. Kaza struggled in the final service game that we needed him to hold in, and we picked up a loss for the lock. No regrets, but Bublik did get the job done there too easily as he won while going under the team total. On the bright side, though, did hit an outright, so we can live with it as we had Bublik to win Kitzbühel at plus 295. Like Berrettini last year, he was able to go back-to-back, and we'll see if he can keep it rolling. I saw that he already dropped out of Toronto, so we'll see when the next time he plays. But Bublik's been in great form, back-to-back titles on clay, and he's playing the best tennis of his career. So nice job by Bublik, and we'll see what he does moving forward. But a nice outright win for us. And once again, that kind of makes up for the loss on the lock that we had for the last episode. Now, for the actual quarterfinal recap in DC, a lot of drama that ended up happening in DC. Have to figure out where to start because there's a lot of potential starting points for me when it comes to breaking down the action from Friday. So I'll save the choke jobs for last. Starting off with the most straightforward match of the round, you had de Minaur, who ended up beating Nakashima in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. So de Minaur and Nakashima had more breaks than you expected. But either way, de Minaur got the job done, got a break in the middle of the second set, held easily. Besides the last game, where Nakashima actually had a couple of breakpoint chances, but de Minaur held, and he was able to get the job done in straight sets. Then you had Shelton, who ended up beating Tiafoe in straight sets as well. Tiafoe was up 6-5. He got the break. He choked it away, and then Shelton went God mode in the tiebreak, and then Shelton eventually got a break midway through the second set, and he coasted towards the end. But Tiafoe, once again, I talked about it Washington when we talked about the actual outrights. Betting on Tiafoe to win DC is the biggest sucker bet, arguably, in all of tennis, and people do it every time. So Tiafoe, we know, is from the area, so the crowd support's always very in favor of Tiafoe. However, Tiafoe's actual results in the City Open, are significantly worse than you think. So he's been there 9 times, including the actual event this year. So 9 appearances. He's made the quarterfinals 4 times. He's made the semifinals 1 time. He's never made a final. He's never won a title. I think Tiafoe in the City Open might be the most overrated player on tour. He's really not as good as you think in the City Open, and yes, he does have crowd support. He'll look sharp for a round or two. Maybe it's like his entire career. The guy always falls apart every time. And yes, I know Shelton is a better player than Tiafoe. I get it. It was not an upset per se. But when you're up 6-5 and you're serving for the first set and you choke it, I'm going to hold you accountable. And Tiafoe, at the end of the day, just ended up unraveling, double faulted the breakaway in the second set, and then eventually just could not break because Shelton's serve was too good. Tiafoe, though, I just think is a guy. I see Matt ask if I could skip the rant. Yes, I know he was close against Shelton. I'm not going to roast him too hard. I'm just pointing out once again, stop betting on Tiafoe to win the City Open. That's really all I have to say. Just stop betting on him to win the event. He has not made it to a final. He's made 1 semi in 9 trips. It's a waste of money. Anyway, Matt, I was not going to spend too much time on Tiafoe. I was going to spend more time on the other 2 choke jobs that we ended up seeing on Friday. But I wanted to mention that because people keep telling me Tiafoe in the City Open is so difficult to deal with and how he's this unbelievable player. He's really not. That's kind of the main point I wanted to make for that. But either way, moving on into the actual other collapses that we saw, you saw Medvedev against Moutet. Now, Medvedev won the first set 6-1, ended up losing the second set 6-4. He actually got the break while Moutet was serving for the second set. And then Medvedev, in classic Medvedev fashion, got broken trying to stay in the second set. Then Moutet had a knee issue, and he was kind of crawling around the court, and he was clearly compromised. He wasn't actually sitting down on the changeover. Medvedev blew 6 break points in the third set, and he choked it. He ended up losing 6-4 in the final set. So Medvedev, in classic fashion for the last couple years, unraveled once again, went full clown mode, and Moutet was able to survive somehow, despite being compromised, and Medvedev definitely should have won the match, 0 for 6 on breakpoint chances against an injured opponent, and he choked. So I wanted to mention that. Yes, the lightning delay did do Moutet a solid, as there was a delay for about an hour or two, which helped Moutet maybe get some composure back and to help him, I don't want to say take some painkillers, but maybe address the knee a bit more. But either way, an embarrassing loss by Medvedev. Wanted to mention that. However, he might have been outdone for the choke job Olympics because Fritz ended up blowing a 5-2 lead in the third set. He served for the match. He was up 30-love in the service game to win the match, and he choked it. So we saw Fritz beat Fokina a couple of times on grass this season, and then Fokina ended up getting revenge as he was able to win the final 5 games of the third set. Now, Fritz, we saw physically completely deteriorate over the last couple of games, especially in that final service game that he had. He completely ran out of gas. He was on fumes. It reminded me of Acapulco a couple years ago, where they're playing in 90-plus degree heat. Both players are dying, and it's a war of attrition. That's what happened in the final couple games there against Fokina. Fokina just had a little bit more in the gas tank than Fritz. Fritz was on E. He had nothing left in the tank. But still, 30-love up when you're serving for the match, when you are viewed as a top-tier server. You're not elite of the elite, but you're still very good, and Fritz fell apart. So nice job by Fokina. It was a classic Fokina match where it was shaping up that way. Won the first set, then immediately had a mental breakdown, then punted away the final service game, got broken immediately in the third set, and you figure, here we go again, because Fokina is going to implode. And he did, but then Fritz ended up imploding even harder in the last 5 games of the third set. Still, nice comeback by Fokina. I'd argue, based on the actual script of the match, that's one of the biggest matches Fokina's ever won. He's beaten Fritz before. He's beaten Djokovic before. I understand that he has a couple of very nice wins. But the fact that Fokina choked the match away that hard and still managed to mentally reset and win, yes, I know Fritz fell apart on the other end. I get it. But still, Fokina mentally, The fact that he overcame the choke job, the fact that he came back and he won was very impressive. Tip of the cap. Now, similar to the conversation we're going to have about Mutet, the match ended very late because of the fact that there was a weather delay and it was the final match on the calendar. Fekina won at roughly 2 a.m. So for Mutet with the injury and for the late end time on Fekina, the question is, will either guy have anything left in the tank for the semifinal matchups taking place on Saturday? We'll get into that in a second. Wanted to mention the actual match breakdowns, though. Nice job by Fekina, who ended up winning and immediately collapsed on the court afterwards. Mutet, after winning, though, did a limp to center court to celebrate. So both guys might be compromised. We'll see. Shelton's been playing well. Demonaro's been playing well, and we'll go from there. But the point is, wanted to mention the recap, and we'll see if Fekina or Mutet can shock the world, basically, and prove they have anything left in the tank after those crazy wins in the quarterfinals. Now, for the actual quarter recaps, for Washington, I believe we did pretty well. Fritz hurt us because we had him to win the quarter, and that was not fun because he choked away a 5-2 lead in the third set. But either way, a point is for the actual quarter plays in DC. We actually didn't have any, so I take it back. But I saw Fritz, of course, was the favorite to win the quarter. That didn't work out. For the outrights, though, that we have left in the event, we did have Fritz at 4-1, which died, which sucks that it died in a 5-2 lead. We lost Sonigo as a long shot, no regrets there at a massive price. But we have one guy left. We have Demonaur at 8-1, who has an injured Mutet. He's minus 500, and then either Shelton or once again Fekina in the final. So knock on wood, Demonaur's in pretty good shape. We'll see how he does in the rest of the event. But there is a chance we win two outrights. We'll see after winning Bublik in Kitzbühel. We'll see if Demonaur ends up getting the job done by wrapping up a good week for us by winning the plus 800 outright. Anyway, time to move on into the actual breakdown of the semifinal matchups taking place on Saturday in DC. Before we get into the actual breakdown of those matches, though, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Circa, still hosting some of the biggest football contests in the world. Circa Million, Circa Survivor, Circa Grandissimo, over 20 million, guaranteed prizes. You can't call yourself a true DGen if you're not competing in Circa football contests. Plus, you're coming out with SGPN at Circa Contest Weekend, August 21st to 23rd, for an amazing weekend, including live shows and open bars. Plus, you get 15% off a stay at Circa with promo code SGP15. Contest open to everyone. Sign up in Nevada, play from anywhere with the help of SGPN's official proxy. Go to footballcontest.com. Use code SGP. Once again, use the code SGP to get $50 off your proxy fees. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they're doing Best Mania happening all summer long. Giving away 15 million in prizes, including 2 million for first place. No waiver wire, no arguments about trades. Best ball is the best way to play fantasy football. Underdog is also a great place to play Pick'em if you want to try entering an entry for a chance to win 500 times your money. And a reminder, when you sign up, though, for your new account, use code SGPN to get a special pick and first time visit offer up to 1K in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the quarters. Time to move on into the preview of the two matches taking place in the semis. Starting off with the first match on the card, you have the biggest favorite on the card, as you have Demonaur, who's minus 500. You have Mutet at around plus 380. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Demonaur at around minus 130. You have Mutet plus 4.5 at around plus 110. For the over-under in games, I see 20.5 at minus 125 on the over, or you can go for 21.5 with the under being at minus 120. So pick whichever one you actually like for the total. For the set spread, you have Mutet to win a set at around plus 130, give or take. You have Demonaur to win in straight sets at around minus 150. For the over-under in sets, I see over 2.5 sets at around plus 190. Now, for the head-to-head, based off one time a long time ago, roughly 9 years ago, and that was in a challenger on hard court, and Demonaur did win in straight sets. Does it matter? No. It was 9 years ago, but still, it was the only meeting that they had in their careers. Now, Demonaur's been very good. He's won 6 of the 7 sets that he's played in this event. Beat Nakashima in straight sets. Did drop a set, though, to Leheshka before winning in 3. However, he had 2 set points in that breaker against Leheshka. So Demonaur was 1 point away twice from winning in straight sets in every single match. So Demonaur's been playing quite well. We know, of course, with him being from Australia, he's good at handling the heat and the actual conditions that can be tough to others. He's handled them quite easily so far in the event. Now, I do think you're looking at Dibonauer, who's been the better player in the event so far. Moutet got the lucky loser draw, and he's really done what the most with it as he's made it to the semis. Now, for the actual path in itself, said before he had a lucky loser opportunity after losing to Wu in the qualifying. Then he beat Mueller, he beat Evans, and he beat Moutet. Sorry, he ended up beating Medvedev. So Medvedev, the win itself was miraculous as he was able to survive a potential injury there in the third set. People are arguing that Moutet was exaggerating or he was clearly acting. Knowing Moutet, he definitely was exaggerating. I'm not going to pretend that he was not milking it. However, I do think he was actually injured to some degree because he was not sitting at all during the changeovers, and he might have been cramping, might have been a knee issue. He got a couple of medical treatments. The fact that he was not sitting on any of the changeovers does tell me that it was impacting him more than you might have, I'd say thought with the actual potential acting job. I think he was exaggerating, but I do think he was definitely feeling it, and Medvedev could not capitalize on the injury as he ended up choking. Now, I do think that some of it was once again mind games, as Manzi's pointing out, but I do think that unlike Medvedev, Dimonauer has the rally skills while also not being an absolute clown. And I do think that Dimonauer, with the conditions here, should handle the heat well. I think he'll win, and I do think that Dimonauer should win comfortably. Now, Moutet, I think maybe can make the match interesting with the variety. The issue is I just don't see enough weapons for Moutet to get by. Medvedev, clearly the heat got to him. It's why he stopped being as patient, and it's why Moutet was able to eventually find his way into the match after losing the first set 6-1. Dimonauer's not going to let that happen. I think Dimonauer will be willing to go into these seriously long rallies without showing any signs of blinking. He's been successful in very hot and humid conditions before. He won a title or two in Mexico in the past. He's from Australia. I think, unlike Medvedev, he will handle the heat quite well, and I do think that'll win this one in straight sets. I think Moutet, even if he is able to fully recover for this matchup, Dimonauer is clearly the better player, so you're giving me a massive head start, and Moutet might get potentially re-aggravated with the injury or the cramping as the match goes on. I think it's a good spot for Dimonauer. I think he should win in straight sets. He's faced off against pretty good servers in general, against Leheshka and against Nakashima. He returned very well against Nakashima. And I do think that Moutet's serve, which is never a strength for his actual game, can also result in a ton of breakpoint chances for Dimonauer over the course of this matchup. Now, Dimonauer's not a great server either, so you might see a decent amount of breaks in this match between the two of them. However, Dimonauer's return game against Nakashima was really impressive. And I do think that Moutet, despite surviving as Medvedev, did have to fight off 6 breakpoint chances in the third set. The opportunity was there for Medvedev to win, and he choked it repeatedly. I think he will not be as lucky second time around. I think the clock strikes midnight on the Cinderella run. Give me Dimonauer in straight sets here. Minus 150 is a bit juicy. I get it, but I think it makes sense. Give me Dimonauer in straight sets at minus 150 as my main thought for this one. Too expensive for you? I consider the under for this one at around 21.5. The issue is I can maybe see Moutet making one set competitive. Probably not. I think that he wins 6-4, 6-2, give or take. I think it's pretty lopsided, honestly. I'll go Dimonauer in this one in straight sets. Moving on to the next matchup, you have the late night match between Shelton and Fokina. Shelton minus 300, you have Fokina at plus 245. For the over-under, I see 22.5 games. For the set spread, you have Shelton in straight sets at minus 110. Fokina to win a set is around minus 120. For the over-under for sets, I see over 2.5 sets at around plus 145. Now, for that TED history, there's more history here than there was between Moutet and Dimonauer. Faced off a couple of times, and Fokina has actually been decent against Shelton. Fokina's 2-0 lifetime. Faced off once this year on clay, and you saw Fokina win in 3, which is really no shame to Shelton, who is not viewed as a good clay player. Then again, he had a decent run in the French Open, did win a set against Alcaraz. But Fokina beat him in 3. Faced off in Paris, though, a couple years ago, and Fokina did win in 3 as well. So it's been close, but I'll point out that the first 2 sets in Paris are very close. Fokina won the first set in a breaker, while second set 7-5, and then eventually did win the third set 6-3. Shelton, though, has clearly made significant strides in his game, and he's looked amazing so far in the event. He's been good in the conditions here, and the fact is he's been arguably the best player in the field so far. He's not dropped a set yet, ended up beating McDonald in straight sets, beat Diallo comfortably, and he returned very well against Diallo in that matchup, and he ended up beating Tiafoe in straight sets. As for Fekina, we know he looked very good in the first couple rounds, beating Munar, beating Tien, and beating Fritz. The problem was the first match took 3 hours, and the match ended at 2 in the morning. So he has less than 24 hours to recover for this matchup. In fact, the projected start time, it might depend on how short the de Minaur match is. It's scheduled for around, I'd say, 8:10. I'll assume later, so let's assume it starts at like 8:45. You're still having to play with basically 20 hours of rest, give or take. I'd say a little bit less than that, like 19 hours of rest, give or take. Like, it's really not a good spot for Fekina at all. And I think you're looking at an opportunity for Fekina to either showcase his toughness and to try to survive against a guy who's been passing every challenge with flying colors in the event, or he gets destroyed. I'm going option B. I think Shelton's too good. I think Shelton with the serve, he's been bombing 140s a lot with the serve. Tiafoe broke him one time at the end of the first set. It was the only breakpoint chance he had in the entire match. Shelton's been amazing in the event so far. He's been comfortable. The heat's not been getting to him, and the fact is the serve's been almost unbreakable in the event so far. I think Fekina might give one set a good run, but Fekina we know is not exactly the best server in the world. And I do think Fekina mentally, with the exhaustion tied in, it's a dangerous cocktail where Fekina might be starting okay, and as soon as the fatigue kicks in, he mentally checks out. If Shelton goes up a break early, Fekina might roll over. That could be a possibility too. It was impressive that Fekina got the job done. It was pretty fortunate that Fritz's body broke down and he ended up losing the final 5 games. But I think Shelton with the crowd advantage and with the rest advantage, because he played the match before Fritz, he did have extra hours to actually sit and rest to prepare for the semis. And the fact is, Fekina, his body might fall apart in this matchup. If Fekina has any chance to win this match or to keep the match close, he has to win the first set. If he loses the first set, I give him no chance at all of finding a way to rally in this matchup after finishing his match at 2 a.m. on a Friday or early Saturday morning. So for me, give me Shelton in straight sets. Once again, an anticlimactic episode. I was trying to give everybody the, I'd say, question, the cliffhanger, if I would provide any faith in the guy that's injured and the guy that is potentially exhausted after playing at 2 in the morning. The answer is no. Short and sweet to the point. I think it's going to be pretty chalky on Saturday. I think de Minaur and Shelton win comfortably, and I think we get them in the final. I think that Fekina maybe can force a breaker, but I do think that Shelton's game has been too sharp in the event so far. I would pick Shelton to win the event right now if I had to go based solely on the eye test and what I've seen so far. de Minaur's been very good. Shelton has been serving bombs left and right. The return game has been better than what I expected. And Fekina's not a great server. He double faulted a lot as the match went on against Fritz. Think he might break himself a time or two. I'm not sure Shelton gets broken more than twice in this matchup. Fekina might get broken a bunch. So give me Shelton in straight sets for this one. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the preview of the 2 matches for Saturday in Washington. Now it's time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Mubadala Citi. It's available to bet on baseball, WNBA, golf, tennis, and of course football futures. Available a ton of locations. Use crypto for fast payouts and fast deposits. And a reminder, when you actually use my bookie, when you sign up for your new account, use the code SGPN to get a special 100% match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. Book the G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm because they have brand new feature called Power Trends, which are the best of the best for the house model. And a reminder that you can use it for baseball and for WNBA. MLB Power Trends are 254 and 147. Win rate is 63%. WNBA, though, is 35 and 20 since launch. Download the app. Check out Power Trends. Start betting smarter. And reminder, we have a free trial for Rhythm. Sign up for the free trial for a week by using the link sportsgamepodcast.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the semis in DC. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, give me Dimenauer in straight sets of minus 150. This was on Bet365. Now, I understand it's juicy. I like it. If you want to go for the under instead, you can do that too. I think Dimenauer wins comfortably. I think Moutet is a crafty player who has made a very impressive lucky loser run here. Dimenauer, though, has been too good. Dimenauer's return game has been solid. He faced off against two good servers back-to-back with Leheshka and Nakashima. Now he has arguably the worst server that he's faced in the field so far in his path. I think Dimenauer is going to be jumping all over the serves of Moutet. I see a lot of very stressful service games for Moutet. I think Dimenauer's serve is not great either. I think it's better than Moutet's. But simply put, he's handled the heat better. He's handled the actual opponents better. And you're looking at Moutet, who survived against Medvedev after having a knee issue in the third set or some cramping. But he did save all 6 breakpoint chances in the third set. He probably should have lost on numerous occasions to Medvedev, but Medvedev choked because he's a clown. I think Dimenauer, unlike Medvedev, will finish the job, and I think he'll be able to get the job done in straight sets. Dimenauer has dropped 1 set in the entire event, but he blew 2 set points to Leheshka. So he could have won every match so far in straight sets, but he's from Australia. He's won titles in Mexico before. He's very good in the heat and the humidity. I like the spot for him. Give me Dimenauer in straight sets as my lock at minus 150. For the dog, I'm going to go with Shelton in straight sets at even money. Found this at even money on Bet365 as well. Now, Shelton, unlike everybody I mentioned before, is still perfectly clean into the event. He has not dropped a set yet. He's been very good. We saw him beat Tiafoe in straight sets in the quarters. We saw him win the first couple matches easily, killed Diallo in straight sets, and he also beat McDonald in straight sets. He's been really good. No way around it. And Fekina's been surviving. He looked good in the first couple rounds against Munar and Tien. The Fritz match was very fortunate as he ended up losing. He was down 5-2 into the third set, won 5 games in a row. Fritz's body fell apart, and you ended up seeing Fritz running on fumes at the end. Fekina survived. It was a pure war of attrition. Match ended at 2 a.m. It's a really bad spot for Fekina after a 3-hour marathon facing off against Shelton. I don't think the return game will be as solid for him because of Shelton's amazing serve, and Shelton's return game has been quite good in the event so far. Once again, it's going to be a pretty anticlimactic episode. Not going to get too creative here. Give me the favorites in straight sets for both matches in DC. So once again, the lock's going to be on Dimenauer in straight sets against Moutet at minus 150. For the dog, I'm going to go with Shelton in straight sets against Fekina at plus 100. It's going to wrap it up for the show. And until next time, you find me on Twitter as Radio. Good luck to all of you and all of your